Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has had quite a serious impact on schooling in the country. Schools have had to close early, while pupils have attended classes on a rotational basis. Well, the 2020 grade 11 class was unable to complete the year's curriculum. Nicky Roberts from the University of Johannesburg joins us now to discuss what this means for the class of 2021. Thank you for your time, Ms. Roberts, and good morning to you. That is the question. I mean, if you're a parent, if you're a pupil yourself, or even a matriculant, you're wondering, what does this mean for me, given that probably this is the first cohort of pupils that have had these challenges with their curriculum. What does this then mean for the class of 2021 moving forward?
Well, I think we need to see the class of 2021 as in a worse position than the class of 2020. And we saw the matric results decline by 5% last year. So this group, I think we need to be encouraging them, to be supporting them as best that we can, knowing that last year they didn't finish their curriculum. They had a trimmed curriculum. They had no exams, so they didn't have any grade 11 exams at the end of the year. They've now had their June exams cancelled. They're just finishing their prelims. They've had no March break, and I think we need to give them a lot of support and care. They are facing admission into universities using their school-based assessments. And we know that school-based assessments are quite unreliable, so that also impacts on them. After a hugely disruptive year last year, their grade 11 marks, even though they didn't write any exams and it wasn't standardized, are being used for entry into university. And so you'll have a lot of teenagers disappointed with where they're getting access into, nervous around when is their conditional acceptance going to come through, and then not having had a break in terms of a March break as they now finish off their prelims and gear up for 1st of November examinations.
Yeah, and just speaking about those admissions, if I may just jump in there. Speaking of admissions,
Sure.
For tertiary institutions, has there been any conversation between, perhaps the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Higher, Education and Learning about what to do to accommodate these matriculants? I know that at the end of the day, they need to have acquired the right, education, the right understanding of concepts. But with the challenges they've incurred, is there some sort of compromise from institutions of higher learning?
Not that I'm aware of. I think the situation is very much that everyone's in the same boat. So, all of the grade 11s have faced the same thing. I don't think that that's entirely true. Obviously, those with means have had a far better experience and far easier shift into remote learning than others. So we have a significantly widening inequality. But from what I can see from the university entrance requirements, they're applying exactly the same metrics that they have before. Matric, as I always say, is not a ticket into university. It's a ticket into the queue for university. And so these students have to do the best that they can to get as far ahead in the queue as they're able to. Yeah. Tumelo, one of the components that I'm really worried about, though, we know that primary schools have gone back full time. Which I welcome. But our grade 8 and 9s are really having a tough time. High schools are still on a rotational basis. The matrics are prioritized, but I'm aware of grade 8 and 9 students who now, even though teachers are vaccinated, are only getting access to schooling once a week, if not once a fortnight. So we really have a big problem in terms of that critical year of those years, this transition into high school.
Yeah, so you're saying that it's not only the grade 11s and matriculants that we need to worry about, but also place some focus and give more support and resources, even to the grade 8 and 9 cohort, because they're equally facing challenges. And I mean, they're fresh from primary school, getting into high school in a pandemic year. So it's basically, I suppose, the entire secondary schooling system that needs a focus here.
Absolutely. I think our matrics end up being the focus, and I think that's appropriate. It is a high-stakes examination, but the extent to which our little grade 8s and 9s are being neglected is a big concern. And then we are aware of the major backlogs also right in the beginning of schooling. Learning to read happens in grade 1 to 3. And if you're not reading enough because you're on a rotational basis, we now know that our foundation phase students in home language and in English are between 50 to 75% behind. So kind of 6 months to 9 months behind what previous cohorts were.
Yeah, that's a reality to consider. And thank you for highlighting this issue with us and speaking to me. Thank you so much, Nicky Roberts.